Good morning, class. Today our objective is adding and subtracting using fraction tiles. So we've never used fraction tiles before, but I'm gonna explain all of that, and then we're gonna do an activity in our groups to add and subtract fraction tiles. So here we go. So overview of fraction tiles. All they are a visual model and a hands-on way to help us practice adding and subtracting fractions, or we can even use it to do equivalent fractions. What are fraction tiles? It's basically what I explained. They're little rectangular pieces. They're divided and they're different colors, so it's easy to differentiate which one is 1/4, which one is 1/2. Adding fractions. So there's three things you need to do when adding fractions. You need to make sure that the fractions have a common denominator, convert them into the same denominators, make sure to keep them the same denominators, and then you can add the numerators. So this is an example. Adding and subtracting fractions can be difficult at first, but it becomes easier as you practice and practice. So in order to add or subtract fractions, both fractions need to be the same. As we talked about, we need to find the least common denominator. So here's an example of adding fractions and finding the least common denominator. So we actually did this the other day. We find the multiples and then we find our like denominators. Okay, subtracting fractions is very similar. You have to make sure they have the common denominator, keep the denominator, and then the only difference is that you're subtracting the numerators instead of adding the numerators. Okay, here's an example. An example right here. In order to subtract fractions, you first need to find the common denominator, which we said you do as well for adding fractions. And then you just subtract the numerators. So here's an example. This is with the same denominators, 3/5 minus 1/5, and you get 2/5. And then the different denominators, which we found the multiple of 7 and 2, which was 14. So practice problems. Step 1, find common denominators. Step 2, add or subtract the numerators. And step 3, simplify if possible. Okay, so now we're gonna go into groups. And before we go into groups, I'm gonna show you guys first how to use the mixed tiles. And then you're gonna go into your groups and you are gonna practice with the mixed tiles as well, adding and subtracting fractions. It's gonna be super simple. We're not finding least common multiples. We're just adding and subtracting using mixed tiles. Okay, so if you guys wanna come around me before we break into groups, I'm gonna explain to you the mixed tiles. So each group is going to have a Ziploc baggie of all the mixed tiles. So as you can see, each mixed tile is a different color, so you won't get confused. So 1/5, all of the 1/5s are pink, all of the 1/8s are green, and so forth. So as an example, we're gonna try, let me get a marker, just 1 minute. We're gonna subtract very simply. First, we're going to subtract First, we're going to add, right? So let's just add. So 1/3 plus 1/3. What is the first thing we need to do? Sabrina?
Do they have a common denominator?
Yes, they do. They do have a common denominator. Very good. So do we need to change anything right now? Okay, so what is our answer? So explain to me what we should do.
Add the number on top.
So the numerator, very good. So what is that? How do we add the numerator? What is our answer?
Plus 1 is 2.
Okay, and then what do we do about the denominator?
Is it 6?
So that's a really good that's a really good answer, but what was step 2? If we look back, Step two is keep the same denominator, right? So we have that the denominator never changes. It's always gonna be what the bottom number is. So that's our answer, 2/3. All right, let's do another example using our mixed tiles. What if we have what if we have 3/8 minus 1/8. Who can give me the answer? Michelle?
We're subtracting now, so 3 minus 1.
Very good. Awesome. So, what is
2.
our answer? 2. Perfect. Now, same thing that we did before, right, Michelle? Like Sabrina did?
Keep same denominator.
Keep the same denominator. Perfect. So, what is our denominator?
8.
Beautiful, Michelle. So, these are just some examples of how we're going to be using our mixtiles in our groups. Now, I'm going to break everybody into individual groups, and you get to play and have some fun and do some examples learning how to use mixtiles. Thank you. Bye.